There are countless tales of the paranormal and cryptids around the world, and especially during war. Stories of specters wandering on no man's land, dead comrades, and cryptids that sound a lot like what we call in modern-day time Bigfoot, came home with countless war heroes, haunted by their memories. In this video, I will share a tale of the paranormal that happened to a soldier named Will Bird whilst serving in World War I. Like and subscribe. If you like my content, stay tuned and enjoy. It was the midst of World War I. In the miserable dirty trenches of Vimy in France in the year 1917, Canadian soldier Will Bird settled down after a laboring shift of digging a bivouac in an embankment to finally rest. It was well after midnight by the time he and the two other soldiers had finished their shift. The soldiers were utterly exhausted and were desperate to get whatever rest they could in their trenches. The soldiers fastened a ground sheet to keep the soldiers warm as they slept. They dozed off to sleep. Hours later, Will was woken in the night. He described a warm hand grabbing his hand, then another grabbing his other hand. Bill looked up, unsure of who was over beside him, and found himself staring into the face of his brother, Steve. Steve had been killed in war in 1915. Will was completely speechless. He could not comprehend the sight that lay before him. Steve told Will to grab his equipment and to follow him. Bill followed without question. Steve led his brother through the trenches, past the sleeping soldiers. As they walked, Will's gear fell off his shoulder. He was separated from his brother, who continued on walking, through into a passageway. Will eventually made it to the passageway and saw that he had two options, to go left or right. He went right, but his brother was not there. He left and came back to look for him again, but his searches were to no avail. Will was sweating and excited and still couldn't completely wrap his mind around the baffling encounter which had taken place. He dozed off against a nearby trench wall in the early morning. He was awoken soon after by another soldier shaking him. The soldier informed him that they had been digging around the bivvy he was in, and they had only found Jim's helmet and legs, another soldier. Will was astonished and asked, "What does he mean? What does he mean they only found his helmet and legs?" That was when he was told that a big shell had exploded in the bivvy, and they had been digging around looking for him. Steve had come to Will while he was sleeping in that bivvy and led him away. Will realized that his brother, who had died in 1915, came back as a ghost to save his life that night. According to Will, his brother Steve had saved his life multiple times while he was away at war. He claims that, before Steve had gone off to war, he had told Will that if he didn't return home, maybe I'll find a way to come sometime and whisper in your ear. Soon after, they had forgotten about the experience, having to move on in the war, but it never left Will, who wrote about his experience in one of his books, Ghosts Have Warm Hands. He always believed that his brother had saved his life that night, and it wasn't the only time. What do you make of this story? Many skeptics believe that the stress, fatigue, and setting of war and life in the trenches of World War I can deceive the mind and make one play tricks on themselves, such as having hallucinations. Others believe it truly was the ghost of Steve, coming back to save the life of his brother. Stories of the third man factor, where what many soldiers believe to be a ghost saves their life while away at war, are not uncommon. Let me know down in the comments below what you believe. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my content, and stay tuned for more.